Hi everyone, welcome back to Techknow with Sudeep, where we break down complex ERP topics into simple, practical, and knowledge. In today's episode, we are going to kick off a brand new module. It's called Procurement and Sourcing, as I promised in my last video. Now, this procurement sourcing, which is kind of a foundational for any specific business, how they manages their vendors, purchase the goods, and streamline the supply chain. If you're just joining us and have not covered my previous videos, where we covered the core setup in D365 finance and operations, including like creating a legal entity, setting up number sequences, and defining the chart of account, currencies, calendars, account structures, and how all these four components can be mapped in a ledger setup. All these has been already been covered in my previous videos. And also, as a bonus, you could also understand how you possibly get a free version of training environment from the Microsoft, or if you have a budget, you could also procure uh, a paid training environment from other entities, right? I have already covered all those aspects in my previous session, so please go back and watch those videos and come back here. I'm going to dive deep into the procurement sourcing, and we'll kind of explore what it means, why it is so critical for any business, and mostly why it is often the first functional module to be implemented in the ERP system. If you're ready, let's get started. Now, coming back to procurement and sourcing, right? So now we are not really talking about any specific organization, as a general process for any organization for with respect to procurement and sourcing, so that before even we jump into the system and showing you those all those clicks and the pages and going through the pages, just understand why we required any procurement and sourcing aspect, right? So be it any specific organization, be it the service industries or the manufacturing industries or the trading industry or the retail industry, procurement is kind of a drives very important process, right? Because if you produce something, you need a raw material, and if you're trading something, you need again a raw material. If you're retail, you need a certain specific aspects. You buy things and you transform certain aspects, and then you sell it. So for anything you require a raw material. It's when you're talking about procurement, it's not only about raw material, right? It could be in printing and stationaries, your internal materials, right? Your staff well-being. So certain things you cannot purchase it. So everything will come into with respect to procurement. So there are usually procurement is divided into two aspects. One is a non-trade procurement, where when I say non-trade, there is no as such raw materials or items are involved, and the trade procurement, where it's specific items you're gonna procure from different sources. So what do you mean by that, right? So what do you mean by when you say that procurement processing, right? It's an end-to-end process of acquiring goods or the services, ensures that it's not only about processing acquiring a goods. You need to ensure that availability of material in the right time, right quantity, and the quality. Because assuming that you place a customer has placed an order, and you have to produce certain things, so that you have to make sure all the requirement related to that specific production, be it raw material, be it your resources, or be it your other non-trade items, should be available to produce that item. So you have to ensure that availability of material in a right time, right quantity, quality is very helpful. And also it makes sure that it needs to reduce the cost. You have to build a certain vendor relationship, a different pool of vendor relationship, where they could provide a best reduced cost raw material and all other specific items to you. So that's the objective of procurement and sourcing. So yeah, of course, other objectives could be ensure the uninterrupted supply, optimize the cost via vendor comparison, because you're asking a specific vendor to send me a specific items, then you're going to compare with the different vendor who is providing the best quality and the best prices, so that you could procure from the and you make a best judgment. That should also, your as a procurement sourcing module, must help you, right? It's not only about when that is required and how much is required, at what cost it is required. It is also the ability to provide a different comparison from the different vendor who provides at what, uh, based on the specific parameters, like what, who provides the best for you. And of course, maintain transparency and documentations like invoicing or the quotations or the any specific documentation, be it the approval process or anything. It should be documented in the right place, so that you could always go back and audit it, right? That's the thing. And the all one of the main important thing is that build a strategic vendor partnership. That's the other thing. So how the procurement sourcing process starts, right? Is the first, of course, is a vendor identification, right? Even before vendor identification, somebody has to trigger that, that is a requirement of purchasing raw material. This could be done. That's a two-way that, uh, this could be an internal request raised by your internal, within the internal department, in the internal company, which we call it as a purchase requisition. That there are specific department, if you're talking about a large scale organization, there will be a certain department, a sourcing department, right? They're going to check the current availability of inventory, what's the demand for the immediate future, and what needs to be purchased. Is any specific new item has been added for the productions, as it require different raw materials altogether requirement. So all these things, they're going to analyze it, and they're going to raise a request, which is called as a purchase requisition, right? Raise a request within a purchasing sourcing department that, guys, we need to procure this, and this is the demand on so and so date, where we require this raw material. So you're going to raise the purchase requisition. Once the purchase requisition is go through the process, the purchase department see it and they approve it, then the next step is a quotation, right? Then you're going to identify the vendor, right? You have a pool of vendor, could be a different, not even in the pool of vendor, you're finding a new vendor. So you have to identify a vendor who will provide these raw materials for us. So you identify those vendors, and you're asking the vendors to send a quotation, right? Once those all those quotation comes into the picture, then you're going to compare it, and you choose the best vendor who is providing this specific raw material for us. Once you identified it, you're going to create a purchase order. Once the order is created, then you're going to receive the material, and the invoice happens, then the payment happens, and then comes to the reporting and other aspect. This is about the high level of procurement and sourcing the process. Now this is all about the vendor. This is all will be created in a system. Vendor will be created in the system, requisition will be created in the system, quotation will be created in the system, order, receipt, invoice verifications, and the invoice creation, payment will be done, and the reporting will be done. This is all could be managed within the, has to be managed within the system. There's also other component, like some vendor maybe ask a prepayment before he sends the raw materials to, he'll ask that, you have to do up to 50% advance payment, because it's a huge thing, I cannot take all the risk. So asking them to making a prepayment. There's also some component, we will all discuss about the specific aspects of that prepayment. There could be a trade agreement, you have a coming to a long-term agreement with the vendor for the specific item on the specific price, right? There could be a pricing agreement with the different vendor. If you select the item, system should understand that what's the price has been agreed with the specific vendor. So that's specific level of details. And there could be a, there's all other aspect like payment terms. When you're making a vendors agreement with any vendor, you'll always asking the credit period, right? You're purchasing the item, you're going to say that within a 30 days I'm going to make a payment. So all these aspects will be managed in the procurement and the sourcing, the process itself. Then the, of course, we talked about agreement, quote, received, invoice, and the reports. There's one more other aspect is the product creation, right? So you procure it, you procuring the item, right? And that item also has to be created in the system. So the, in the procurement and sourcing, vendor creation is very important, and also the managing of product item, right, is also very important. So we also talked about we're going to talk about the product creation in the system. So this is the whole the procurement life cycle, right? Vendor identification first is the need identification, is the requisition what we talked about, vendor identifications, quotations, vendor evaluations, purchase orders, goods received, invoice verification, payment processing, reporting, and each of these specific can be subdivided into a couple of other stuff like invoice verification, right? And the payment processing, that could be a prepayment, and quotation in the tender, there could be a trade agreement between the different vendors, the pricing agreement with the different vendor, there could be some discounts being offered, there could be some other aspects like custom charges and the other landing costs, right? When the go- when you receive the item, when it comes to the your warehouse, there could be other cost gets involved. There could be a customs or import duties, some other vendors is helping you to you know sending those goods to your warehouse. So there are a couple of different scenarios within the purchase procurement and sourcing module. So you don't have to worry about, because I'm using a lot of new jargons probably, so you don't have to worry about it. We're going to divide these procurement sourcing into the in a manageable proportion, which we call it as a proportion of reduction, right? We're going to take it a smaller proportion first, like vendor creation, item creation, order creation, receipt creations, invoice creations, payment creation. We're going to divide it into each specific part so that it makes more easy for you to follow and so to understand. So this is about procurement and sourcing. And in our next video, we're going to cover how to create a vendor and how to create an item. I'm going to, as I said, I'm going to subdivide. Probably I'm going to create a first videos about the all about the vendor creation, then about the item creation. Okay, so that's it for today's overview of the procurement and sourcing module. In the next video, we will roll up our sleeves and actually create a vendor, explore important fields, and set up related master data like vendor groups, profile. There are a lot of things, right? So we're going to create all those things. If you found this helpful, drop your comments in the comment section, and I will be happy to help. See you in the next one. Thank you. Bye.